It is 6 o'clock. It is time to call the Sherwood City Council meeting to order. At this time, I would like to ask Robert Campbell to come forward and lead us in our prayer tonight.
Let's all pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for your love and your mercy and your goodness to each and every one of you, Lord. Pray that right now that you'll touch this council meeting, Lord. Each and every member, give them wisdom, passion, understanding, and strength. We ask you to bless this audience also. Keep and help each and every one of us.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please.
Brooks? Here. Harmon?
Here.
Lilly?
Here.
McMinn?
Here.
High?
Here.
Sanders?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Roderick? Here.
Approval of minutes of the regular meeting on January 28, 2019 is transcribed. So moved.
Second. Williams?
Aye.
Brooks?
Aye.
High?
Aye.
McMinn?
Aye.
Roderick?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Lilly?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye. Is there a motion to waive the reading requirement? So moved.
Before we do that, can
Sure.
I make a
Go ahead.
comment? I think that the council got kind of embarrassed at the last council meeting with regard to the discussion of the changing of the name on Brierley Road. There was no notice given to the Brierley family prior to that name change, and we waived the reading requirements as we always do. We passed it in one meeting. It wasn't really an emergency situation, and we've gotten kind of what should I say, nonchalant about simply waiving the reading requirement and passing everything on the agenda at one meeting without consideration of whether the things are true emergencies or not. I am personally going to ask that we consider from now on only waiving the reading requirement on items that are true emergencies and need to be passed at that particular meeting so that that doesn't happen again. The Brierley family, which is a very old Sherwood area family, was deeply offended that they weren't given notice and that the name of that street was changed. Marina's had conversations with them, and I think she can speak to that.
They were just upset that they weren't contacted in any way, shape, or form, and I assured them that I thought they were reached out to, but apparently someone tried to reach out to them and didn't try real hard, and they've had that homestead was theirs for years and years and years, and they gave that land, they agreed to give that land to the city of Sherwood for annexation purposes, as far as they signed to come into the city, even though it was really no real benefit to them to come into the city at the time. And they were very upset when they learned after the meeting what had happened. And so Brian has the street sign for the Brierley Street, and at some future council meeting they are going to come and accept the street sign from us. I would like to add, I think when we change street names in the future, that there may be a policy that does not change in one meeting, because that's the second street name that's been changed that there's been some controversy after.
Right. And I just think that it's not a lot. It's not real difficult for us if something's not an emergency to take two meetings to enact it. It's not a lot of skin off our noses to take two meetings to enact it and allow the public more opportunity to get notice of whatever those actions are. And so the waiving of the reading requirements, if it's not a zoning classification, if it's not a rezoning and the contractor or the developer needs it that night or something of that nature, if it's not an emergency, I just think we need to think about it a little bit longer before we waive reading requirements. And that's the comment I wanted to make about the waiving of the reading requirements. If we think about it a little bit more before we do it, and think about whether we're giving the public the necessary notice that they need about our actions. The original reading of what the reading requirements are, you read an item 3 separate times at 3 separate meetings so that the public gets notice. That was the original reading requirement, and that's what we're waiving.
So what you'd like to do is make this more of a tie to each individual ordinance as opposed to a blanket waiver at the beginning of the meeting.
What I would prefer to do.
Okay.
Okay.
I would certainly support that. That was never the intent to, take away notification, et cetera, and there's been some negative outcome from that, so.
And let me say also, I'm the one that made the motion for that last meeting. I was under the distinct impression that that had all been taken care of, that the Browleys had been contacted. There's supposed to be a plaque on the wall at the school. That was my impression that that had already been taken care of.
We all were.
I concur. What I was told.
So I will apologize for that to the Browleys.
I think we all were.
Number 6.
So, Tim, do you want to remove your motion?
Rescind it.
Rescind your?
Yes, yeah. They're on the reading requirements.
Yes.
Yes, I will rescind my motion.
Very good. Yeah, go ahead.
Approval to remove 2018 assets. Should have received a copy of those. We do. So moved. I'll second it.
Williams.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
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 McMahon.
Aye.
Roderick.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Committees and/or commissions, advertising and promotion commission. We did meet, and the minutes are in your packet. Does anyone have any questions? Our next meeting will be the first Wednesday in March at 3 p.m. at the Bill Harmon Rec Center. Thank you. Civil Service Commission, Parks and Recreation Committee.
Parks and Recreation Committee was planning to meet, but then there was a conflict with the 2040 committee, and we canceled our meeting. We're planning to meet this month on the second Monday of the month at 6 o'clock, and I guess I need to get with the chairman of the 2040 committee so he knows that the second Mondays of the month are Parks and Recreation Committee meetings. And thank you.
Thank you. Personnel Committee.
We did not meet, didn't have anything on the agenda. Right now, we're not sure we have anything coming up, but if we do, it'll be March the 7th at 5:30 Thursday at the Bill Harmon Rec Center.
Very good. Thank you. Planning Commission.
I'd like to move to suspend the rules for consideration of another item.
Second.
Williams.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
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 McMahon.
Aye.
Roderick.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
A resolution declaring the intent of the city of Sherwood to construct a new public works facility on certain property located on Jacksonville-Cato Road.
Okay, this is the resolution. First off, let me cover part of the resolution, and then I'll cover a friendly amendment that Beverly spoke to me about before the meeting. It simply says, whereas the city of Sherwood has purchased certain land located on Jacksonville-Cato Road, more particularly described as, and has the description of the land on Jacksonville-Cato Road at 9121 Jacksonville-Cato. And whereas it is the intent of the city to construct on said property a new public works facility for the relocation of the existing facility currently located at 6500 North Hills Boulevard. Now, therefore, the rezoning request for the property in question is hereby remanded back to the Sherwood Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission is hereby requested to establish a new, and her friendly amendment is that the word new be removed, to establish a zoning classification sufficient for the municipal use plan for the property as declared by this resolution, but conditional in nature, so that should the property or any part thereof cease being used for municipal purposes, it would revert back to its original R1 zoning classification. Then Section 2 simply says, until such time as the new conditional use zoning classification has been established for the property in question, a professionally prepared sign will be placed on the property future site for the work department deemed that. So the rezoning classification that I envision here is a classification that is not industrial, that is not commercial, that is a special use classification for situations like this, and that is conditional by its nature, so that if the use ever goes away, if the city ever quits using it, if the city sells off a piece or anything of that nature, it automatically reverts back, just like any other conditional use, to the R1 classification. First, I'd like to have a vote on the friendly amendment of the replacement of new, so I move that the word new be removed from section.
Second. Williams.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
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 McMahon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
A resolution declaring the intent of the city of Sherwood to construct a new public works facility on certain property located in Jacksonville Cato Road. That's the resolution as amended.
Move for the adoption.
Second.
Williams.
Aye.
Brooks.
Aye.
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 McMahon.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Harmon.
Aye.
Lilly.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Due to, I know we have some residents that came tonight that would like to speak. I'm not going to deny you that opportunity. I have 4 who have signed up to speak, and I believe they're all real close proximity to this property. If you would like to come, we do not want to deny you that opportunity. The first person I have on the list is Mr. Bill. Bill, would you like to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And while Mr. Bill's coming, I just want to remind that each speaker has 5 minutes. Please state your name and address when you come forward. It's not an interactive conversation with the council, but it's certainly an opportunity for you to speak and address your concerns. And once any speaker has presented the information, we ask that the next additional speakers do not duplicate that information. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Charles H. Beal, live at 9027 Jacksonville Cato Road. And this property that I want to reclassify, rezone, is direct runoff of it will go right into my lake. Actually, it'll go into 2 or 3 people's lake. And you can talk to me all you want about how you're going to put in a sewer system that'll capture all of this runoff from the truck, sewer truck, or garbage truck wash, or any other vehicle. But it's just going to run down out into the street, right down the street into my lake. And that lake has been there probably longer than Sherwood. Now y'all have moved out there and taken it over, and you want to come up and use this property for that. Something that's not needed out there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next person I have, Mr. Anthony Brown.
My name is Anthony Brown. I live at 9105 Jacksonville Cato. I've actually got a few things to hand out. I typed up what I'm going to say tonight. I've got a copy for each council member. I'm also going to pass around some pictures to kind of go along with the Planning Commission's staff report, the photography that they use. If you notice on here, it shows that this is a current aerial photo. I got on Google Maps on my phone, printed off a current aerial photo. To include in those photos, you'll notice some of my home, which I've stretched a piece of pink ribbon roughly 30 foot into the property, which is what's required as the buffer. That 30 foot is not very far at all. If you notice that ribbon, it is right there at my driveway. Back to what I was going to say, I strongly oppose this rezoning of residential neighborhoods to industrial, especially for this purpose. These 2 zonings are on opposite ends of the spectrum. I was asked, if I don't want this facility near my house, where should it go? During the Planning Commission meeting, the city engineer was asked if any other areas in Sherwood were considered. He stated to his knowledge they were not. Does this make sense from a planning standpoint to rezone an industrial area right next to residential without considering all options? No. Proper planning of a community would mean rezoning to industrial as a last resort, not as a convenience. This area was zoned residential by the city of Sherwood upon annexation. My wife and I did our research as diligent home buyers should. We purchased the property after the annexation of Gravel Ridge a mere 2 years ago. We chose the area to build our home because we wanted to raise our family there. Now I'm concerned that the pristine development will go away. Our expectations were that the residential development, a phase of Miller's Glen, would soon be established. From that, our property value would remain secure. Unfortunately, we are now facing an industrial rezoning and a city facility that threatens our property value. We're not talking about a fire station that would lower our insurance. We're talking about trash trucks and a retention pond. Prior to purchasing this property, we looked at several cities and even locations in the county. We chose this property due to the location in the middle of a residential area. We felt that this would be the best place to invest our time, money, and resource. I understand there are homes near the facility now. The residents in that neighborhood chose to live there. They chose that location. The public works facility did not come to them. They came to it. The increased traffic in this area, the noise, and the trash trucks will all interfere with the quiet enjoyment that one expects with a residential neighborhood. My wife and I want the ability to raise our family in a quiet residential neighborhood. My neighbors want that. We expected that when we moved to the area just a few short years ago. The request submitted to the Planning Commission stated the majority of the property surrounding this undeveloped. Therefore, the proposed public works facility may not impact surrounding residents to the degree that it would, where greater housing densities in the immediate area. How many houses, how many residents does it take to oppose this? The intent of this area being residential was to attract these residents. By rezoning even just the smallest portion and lowering the property values of a few, and not listening to those who were impacted by this, will it scare off those who would move there and be our neighbors? My neighbor will always and forever be the city trash trucks if you do not oppose this. I feel like the city of Sherwood needs to meet the needs of citizens for which it works for. There should be more thought and work going into the location of any future public facility. The city is growing out towards Gravel Ridge. City locations need to be strategically located in order to better serve everyone. They need to be easily accessible to everyone and located in and around other city facilities. There are more appropriate locations for this facility. I believe that our city planned so that its citizens would know where to live and buy homes in the future. Also, the retention pond that is being proposed on this property, if you look at the aerial maps, that's going to put this retention pond within about 50 to 60 feet.
All right, I'm sorry, sir. That's your 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Mrs. Natalie Brown.
I have a printout here that shows the site plan that shows the retention pond and the close proximity to my driveway and the home, along with the size of it. Additionally, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you just stated that the property would now be amended to go to R1 conditional. I have an email from Robert Middleton from the Planning Commission stating the reason he felt that, and the Commission felt it couldn't go to R1 conditional was because the public utility buildings and facilities in a plan that states the public utility and buildings and facilities when necessary for serving the surrounding area, provided that no public business office and no repair or storage facilities are maintained therein. Since there is no text in the current land use plan, we have little guidance as to what the parameters of the various land use classifications are, other than their labels. I suppose the plan could be revised to public, but that doesn't help with the appropriate zoning. R2, R3, and R4 have the same conditional use permissions and limitations as R1. In my mind, the only way out of this is to revise the land use plan to public, then revise the conditional use provision of R1 to allow a facility like this. My ambivalence on the zoning is the precedent it sets for similar future heavy uses in R1. Maybe not a problem if the language can be precise and limiting. That's an email that he sent to the urban planner with Garver prior to the commission meeting on February 12th, and I can send that around as well. I received that in the FOI request. So I want to thank the members of the City Council who took the time to drive by the property and see personally view the location and the proximity of this proposed facility to my home. I don't think that the pictures that were originally presented to the Planning Commission did justice to the impact that this will have on my family and neighbors. Not necessarily just the rezoning itself, but the facility. You can see from those pictures that it is going to be located immediately next to my home. My neighbors and I have invested in Sherwood. We've invested our money into the land we've purchased and the homes we've built. We've invested our time in building the homes, and we've invested our families in putting down roots in Sherwood with the intent of raising our children here. We've invested in this city. These investments were made based on the current zoning rules in the city, which is the purpose of zoning. If the land near our homes is rezoned from anything other than residential to include this facility in that use, we will face a loss in value to our homes, a loss in our investments. Please ask yourselves, if you bought property in a residential area, how would you feel if it were rezoned and then used by the very people who rezoned it? You're homeowners, right? You remember when you bought your homes, when you bought your dream homes? Your family, if the city then moves this. The purpose of planning a city is to prevent an upsetting of expectations and allow quiet enjoyment for its residents. The government plans its city so that citizens know where to live and buy homes and can prepare their homes for the futures. The city planned for this area to be residential, and Sherwood annexed the land and zoned it residential. My husband and I, along with several of our neighbors, purchased our land and built our houses within the last 2 years with the expectation that this would stay such. The city's own land use plan even includes the area as residential. On Sherwood's own website, Mary Young states that Sherwood was recently rated by the Wall Street Journal as one of the 10 best cities in the United States in which to live. Sherwood offers a hometown atmosphere while conveniently located to the entertainment and amenities of a larger metropolitan area. I would prefer that my hometown not place trash trucks in a large stormwater retention pond immediately next to the home of myself and my neighbors. I'm a citizen of Sherwood, and I fully understand the need for a public works department. I understand there is a need for a new facility due to Sherwood growth, and I'm not trying to work against the city. I'm simply asking that the city of Sherwood listen to its residents and citizens, understand that this piece of land that my family and I have in our investment, in our legacy is here. The city of Sherwood has multiple more appropriate locations in which to choose from to place their public works department. Locations that are closer to major transportation areas and away from residential zoning. Just because this location may have been cheap does not mean it's the best place for this facility. I get this feeling that I can say all the right things and it still won't matter, but I don't understand why. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The last speaker that I have who has signed up, and forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Tony Velasquez.
Mr. Brown's neighbor. I invested. I would have never thought Public Works would have came out there. That's why we built our home there. In that case, I could have moved out to the county, but I thought I was protected. But what I want to know is, if Public Works out there, how could y'all not deny anybody else coming out? Would y'all not? Would it be a lawsuit or? It's in light industrial. I would say y'all have approved it, wouldn't y'all? But I guess they pretty much nailed it. Would y'all want to live next door to it? I sure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Item A, we'll go back to the Planning Commission, so you'll be on to senior citizens.
Senior Citizen Committee.
Mayor, excuse me, we had no meeting or anything, but we do have the fish fry coming up in April, and we do need the items needed for, excuse me, the silent auction.
I'll have that in announcements, but it is April 27th.
It is.
Yes.
Mayor, do we need to make a motion to table that one thing?
Resolution remanded it.
Remanded it, okay, so without the table, okay. Thank you.
Did you have anything else you needed to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Sewer Committee, I believe we have an update from our city engineer, Richard Penn.
Remanded.
Good evening, Richard Penn, City Engineer. I wanted to call to your attention something that you would not otherwise know if I didn't tell you. I'm not sure that you routinely go to the ADEQ website for your entertainment and for your casual reading. So if I may, on February the 1st, our wastewater manager, Mr. Scott Greenwood, drafted a letter to ADEQ requesting that they reduce our requirements for testing on one of the types of tests that we do. Currently, or previously, it was 4 times a year, and each of those tests is several $100s. Through the diligent and very careful work that our wastewater personnel perform on a daily basis, they've been able to keep all of this particular test completely within its parameters for 1 year. And based on that, ADEQ has granted our wastewater department the authorization to drop 2 of those 4 tests. So now they test every 6 months instead of every quarter. And I just wanted you to be aware that the wastewater personnel, you don't see them and you don't hear from them unless you have some terrible thing happen in your front yard. But they're always there doing a very good job, and I wanted them to get some recognition for it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Good job. Street Committee?
Street Committee did meet. Minutes are in your packet. The one thing that is not really covered in the meeting packet is how long of a meeting we had. It never stipulates that we had, a couple of marathon meetings the past 1 or 2 that we've had, but we've been diligently at work on the resolution to present to you guys for, what we would look at and review for sidewalks. So we do have a resolution in front of you this evening, also with the criteria and the rating sheet. If anyone had any questions about those, I know everyone's had an opportunity to review them, but basically what we did was we developed a list of criteria and then said about how we would rate those. So in your council packet, you've got the measurement sheet that's actually in front of the worksheet that would be used to look at and determine how we would stack rank the sidewalks if they were presented. So would open it up and ask, does anyone have any questions or anything before we read the resolution and vote on that? Any concerns or thoughts?
I just wanted to make sure, clarification, under other pedestrian generators, and you've got recreational corridors, is it correct in assuming you're talking about parks, schools?
That would absolutely fit under that definition for sure.
Okay.
I thought it looked very well done myself.
The committee spent a lot of time on it for sure, and I appreciate the comment, Charlie. Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Let me read it first.
Let me read it. Okay. Move for the adoption of the resolution he's about to read.
After you read. A resolution to adopt criteria and ratings in connection with sidewalk construction.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It was a short one.
Williams?
Aye.
Brooks?
Aye.
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 McMahon?
Aye.
Roderick?
Aye.
Harmon?
Aye.
Lilly?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
A resolution approving certain exterior building materials for construction of a metal building for Friendship Baptist Church, Sherwood, Arkansas. This has been tabled in the December and January meeting, and I think there are representatives here from the church tonight. I believe there are.
If you are, please come forward.
I'm here to, you may just speak?
Sure.
I'm here to.
State your name, please.
Chris Seaton, Friendship Baptist Church. We're here to state that we're going to wrap the exterior of the building in brick, and the only thing we're asking for approval on is for the gable ends to be in the approved. I have the approved. We're asking for approval for that.
Has our building department seen, have you been in contact with them?
Yes, ma'am.
How high is that?
14 feet.
14 feet that you need the front. Which one of these? The very bottom one, the gray one.
We just got a check mark by.
Do you have a piece of material here?
I do.
Could you get it?
So that'd be 14.
Mr. Paul Brown, if you're in the building, would you come forward, please?
Oh, there he is. The pointed piece.
How high will you need that metal that you're talking about? 14 feet?
Not 14 feet. Bricks.
Yes. Tallest part is what's up.
Oh, how does this align with our current?
That material right there is not legal.
Okay.
They can appeal my decision. This body make the decision to allow that material.
We were under the impression that material was approved.
Typically in that corridor, corrugated is not, but
this is on the, as I recall, Chris, this was on the back side of the building, correct?
My understanding is going to be on the front and the back, both gable ends.
But it's not the church itself, it's the new building you're building behind the church.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I meant to say, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is new construction behind the current construction.
Charlie, how much was that? Did y'all say? 5 feet.
Is it visible from Brockington?
It will be, and especially once you get commercial property.
It originally was going to be visible from Rocky on the west side of the structure. Talking to BNS Enterprise, Buddy, the guys. They have actually proposed to put the building behind the existing building. Therefore, that would take away from a lot of the exposure.
It's very exposed, though, to the senior citizen community that's right there behind. I mean, there's no buffering. There's nothing. I mean, it's.
But our ordinance doesn't address the neighborhood. It addresses what's on Brockington Street. I mean, I'm just asking that. Isn't that correct?
The ordinance is any portion of the building, period.
I thought it was the facade.
Used to say the original ordinance said anything visible from Brockington.
Yes.
Any portion of the building is visible from Brockington. That was done away with. It basically said went by zone, exclusion of zones were C4 and I1. It said any portion of the building. Then it also deals with sections to that building, allowing for some gable parapets.
The gables.
This is a gable.
So if they're going to do the brick all the way up, and before they wanted that material all the way up, correct? Now they're going to do the brick and just have the gabling, which brings it almost into this permission piece.
And it's how many feet? 5.
A little over 5 feet to the peak.
To the peak.
That's the highest point.
That's just the B. It's a triangle part at the top.
I can hang on. One at a time. Could you repeat that, please?
The ordinance actually talks about architectural features where they're allowed to put this material. But if they're in it, y'all make that decision. I have to say nothing. But they can, just like anything, they can appeal my decision to y'all. That's what it's all about. Our decision.
Well, I know, I think we.
I hate to be on the negative side of this, but I mean that still looks like corrugated metal siding to me.
Yes.
That's what it looks like, and that's really one of the specific things that we're trying to make sure is not there.
But if in our new ordinance, it allows it for gabling, and they, from where they were last time to now, they've actually now brought the brick all the way to the entire side of the building and are only doing on the gabling. And we approved 2 other churches. One that was going to be actually making it match what they had, and another one on Keel. I'm just saying.
We approved
architectural siding.
Our architectural siding is what we approved, and it's a little bit different than a corrugated metal siding.
This material right here that they want to put on, y'all allow them to put on the back of the Salon Professional Academy fix it.
And we've allowed that on the back.
Yes, we have.
And according to this,
It doesn't back up.
according to
Yes,
this,
residential homes in which.
But nothing but homes.
All sides of the building.
That's being developed behind professional.
To get us off go, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'm gonna have to, that you had the ordinance, did the ordinance road. And if we need to amend the ordinance, which says, or from residents neighborhood, need to amend the ordinance. They're complying with the ordinance on the second.
What? Wait a second. How do we know that you're not going to be able to see it from any of Brockington Road or of Gap Creek Drive, even once it's developed? Part of things are right now screened in terms of Brockington Road because right now you've got the trees and so forth, which help to screen everything. Eventually, that will all be developed. Is that going to change the sight lines?
All of that's developed.
No, it's not. There's absolutely no, sir. No, in between Gap Creek and this property, I drive it all the time, are woods.
To the west of the property.
Correct.
But what is behind the piece of property right now are existing residents.
No, I understand that, but in terms of before when we were told that you wouldn't be able to see things from Brockington Road, when actually I went over there and drove down slowly, if you look, once those trees are gone, you will be able to see a whole lot more than what we were originally told. Also, you can also see it through the neighborhood as well. But I'm just saying in terms of like, where exactly on this property are you saying it's completely facing the senior citizen community? And you'll be able to see absolutely nothing from Brockington Road.
If I'm not mistaken,
Of the gable, but the gable's on 2 sides. Do we have drawings or anything?
On here. He's got one right over here.
Let me see it, please.
Well, apparently we've changed, building location, et cetera. I mean,
Yes.
So
I heard that.
I didn't realize.
the other thing too, if y'all looked in this book, it says architectural wall panel, and that's what you're pointed out in this book. It's an architectural wall panel. Now, that right there does not look like this. Is there a different piece of material that's going to be used, or what? Show that to Paul and down there at the bottom, Paul, when they got the arrows, it shows an architectural wall panel.
See, you're not going to be able to see it.
I don't know. That's what we don't have clarification.
Here's the thing. This is the side. You're not going to be see gabling. Gabling's going to be here. So that's what we don't. Yeah. But
that that's on the table is not what's in the book.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. Yeah.
Mr. Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask you why you brought?
They need to submit what they want to put on the bill.
Yes.
That's the way I would.
Can I ask why you brought that book if that's not it? I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Ma'am, I don't take it as being disrespectful at all. You can ask anything.
But if that's not what's in the book, I think that's where we're confused right now.
I was told that what's in the book is what we're going to put up there, and I was told to bring that piece of metal.
That's your problem right there. Is that piece of
Doesn't
metal?
That does not look like.
Right.
No.
Right. And we have approved an architectural wall panel before,
And if you look at
and that's not it.
how they've relocated the building, as I understand, Chris.
I'd like to see that.
Okay. It has. Let me make sure I'm asking the question correctly. If this is where your new location is, correct? Gables are on the short end of the rectangle, correct? This one is totally going to be blocked from this. This one's totally being blocked from its neighborhood. It's not going to be seen from this street. So I see it totally blocked from Brockington. In fact, those two want to see it. But that's not Brockington. It originally was going to be there, and they moved it here. So that's why I say my motion, and we've got a second. They look at it.
Can you
Please bring that to the other side.
Show where it used to be, Chris.
Chris, you need to get that piece of metal off that table because that's causing a problem.
I don't know.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't look like
Doesn't
one in the
matter.
book.
It doesn't matter.
You were set up.
What does the ordinance say? He said it could be used for cable. It's going to be right here.
That's the same sample they brought before.
But they actually had the building in the parking lot. Now they moved behind the building.
I don't think anybody's going to get upset.
I don't think it's for Gables and architects. If we approve
That's what I started saying.
salon professionals.
Okay, you have a motion and a second to approve the resolution.
Call for the vote. Okay. Williams? Aye. Brooks? Aye. Aye.
I need more clarification, so I'm going to say no at this time.
McMahon?
I'm gonna say no until we see the real material, the proper
Roderick?
material.
No. Harmon?
Aye.
Lily?
No.
Sanders?
Aye.
4 and 4.
You want to vote?
Sure. I'll go for it. Because with the understanding that it's not that
Yes,
corrugated.
ma'am.
Personally, I don't have an issue with the corrugated metal, but the ordinance does. But as long as it's not that, and if it's corrugated, we're going to be out there.
Yes, ma'am.
It has to be out of that book, the approved. And I ask that you go with Paul, make sure Paul approves according to our ordinance before you do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mayor, that is the agenda.
Old business.
I have a piece of old business tonight. I don't know if any of you have driven by the used storage facility on 107 recently.
Today?
I have.
No.
When I
I've got-
texted you?
I've got pictures of it. if you'd
I
like
got
to see
pictures for you. Pass these down that way if you would.
The old Safeway?
those. Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
the old
you. I
Safeway.
apologize, but that's my
that's the one.
my point of reference. I'm sorry.
You should see it every day.
They have a mobile billboard in front of their building in the form of a truck. And those you may remember.
Yes.
I don't know if Beverly. I know April wasn't, of course, but I don't know if Beverly
I was.
was on the council when we gave them their zoning or not. But their zoning was a conditional use based on the fact that they wanted to rent U-Hauls and trucks out of their building. And we gave them conditional use zoning, provided that those trucks, all trucks, were parked at the back of the property, back by the fence, so that they had no view from the highway. And it's my understanding from Andy. Andy, did I see you here earlier? My understanding from Andy that the Sheila and before Sheila even, I think they've had multiple issues with the trucks being in the parking lot area up in the front of the building, that the bank has complained in the past about the trucks. I understand there's been multiple issues with the trucks at this location.
I'm gonna read just real quick, section 3 of ordinance 2116, an ordinance rezoning the property located at 7235 Highway 107 from C2 to C3 conditional. Section 3 says the rezoning to a conditional use shall be to allow the rental of moving type trucks and trailers. The business shall be limited to 8 vehicles which shall be stored within the fenced area to the rear of the subject property. Additionally, a marked off area will be provided at the rear of the parking lot for vehicles that are returned after hours only. And Sheila is sick. She was supposed to be here tonight, but this is her file on that business so far, fighting violations of this ordinance, of this conditional use.
Okay. So what I'm going to propose, basically this, the youth storage location is basically just simply thumbing their nose at us and thumbing their nose at this conditional use that we gave them. So what I would like to propose is that we ask the city attorney to prepare a resolution for consideration at the next meeting, that we do what? An ordinance. Prepare an ordinance for consideration at the next meeting, revoking their conditional use and revoking their occupancy permit until such time as they can come into compliance. We simply can't, I mean, that's the only tool we have in our toolbox. If we're going to give somebody a conditional use, they have to comply with the conditional use. And then they can come and tell us why it is that they don't have to comply with the laws as everybody else has to comply with the laws.
I think the city council was very generous. We really tried to be pro-business with them. Met with them several times.
I would agree with you, Mr. Harmon, because I've called Mr. Cobb numerous times. I've sent him pictures numerous times. You've taken pictures. I think we're all fed up with it.
I got pictures.
So I think it's way past time.
And I presume you can send a letter or something. Somebody can notify their attorney. You've been in contact with their attorney. Notify their attorney of the proposed action at the next council meeting. That's my old business.
I've got one other thing. Kevin, just for clarification, now that we passed the matrix, what do you want in terms of the deadline for streets to be submitted?
Streets, you mean sidewalks, I'm assuming?
Sidewalks, yes, sorry.
I hadn't even thought about that, but I don't have any to consider at this point. So if y'all don't submit any to the street committee for review, they will not be reviewed.
Okay. So you would, by the next street committee meeting, you would like a list of possible proposals? Would that work, or 2 months, or what time frame would you like?
I don't know that I single-handedly want to put a specific deadline on that. I mean, I think we need to if we're going to build sidewalks inside the city of Sherwood. But I don't know that that's my decision to make necessarily.
One of the things I want to remind us, and Kevin and I talked about it earlier, was with regard, because we do have some court-ordered sidewalks that have to make sure that those are in compliance before we start venturing on some of those that are on the wish list. So we need to, I don't know where the status of that is, Mr. Penn, with regard to those. So, you know what I'm talking about?
I think Mr. Jansen knows more on that. On the ADA.
The ADA compliance sidewalks that we are court ordered to put in. I think it would be in our best interest as a city with that court order that those sidewalks be expedited before we initiate some others.
Well, with some of these, you've got grants of which you wouldn't use for those purposes. So they're not necessarily the same thing in terms of this
school
list.
Grants are already going.
On the ADA, I don't remember anything in the paperwork. It's been a while since I looked at the paperwork. There wasn't any sidewalks that were identified in that particular suit. Most of it was buildings to that nature, maybe sidewalks going to the building, coming out of the building, egress, but not actual sidewalks themselves. I know that when the expert came and looked at our sidewalks, he identified some things for us, but that was for our future, not for sidewalks of today.
Will you double check that?
Well, it
pretty
wasn't
please?
specific, I think what, Mr. Jansen is saying, it was not specifically identified and named in the suit. But part of our agreement, I think, in good faith when we settled, is that we would work toward taking care of those needs that we have. And we know we have some ramps and different things. Now, some of those are on Country Club. And as we improve Country Club, that will take care of itself. But they're not all on Country Club. We do have some accessibility problems on our sidewalks. But I think maybe discussion at street committee would be very appropriate.
Brian was going to say something, or he kind of waved. Hi, Brian.
Strongly suggested by the ADA experts that came in that we rate or evaluate our existing sidewalks and work diligently in trying to remove any ADA barriers on all of the sidewalks, existing sidewalks.
That's correct.
Then
I would suggest that it's, the sidewalk issue would be discussed back at the street committee, especially with the rating that Brian is referring to. Mr. Penn has some old business that he would like to bring to the council.
I'd like to remind you of a topic I brought to you late last year. It was about Peeler Lake. It's a wetland area that abuts the southern boundary of our South Plant wastewater plant. It's somewhat behind the Pediatrics Plus in that neighborhood. That wetland area, 26 acres more or less, is owned by the Land Trust of Arkansas. Ms. Carol Williams is the executive director. She's with us this evening, and Ms. Williams has stated that she is here to answer any questions that you might have regarding that property. The property is for sale. I brought that to you 3 or 4 months ago, and in the meantime, I've been working with several different agencies on finding money that we can put together in a package that will bring some grant money in and other funds that will help us develop that entire area into an educational hub. And our economic development lady, Ms. Colleen Carr, is very excited about what that could do for us as far as an economic boost in that area. And we could also tie it into our existing trail system. We've got former wastewater manager, Mr. Benson, that's looking into it for us in that area. So I just wanted to remind you that that opportunity is still there. I am very much interested in gaining that property because we can preserve the wetland for the city and preserve that floodway area. And I think there's enough benefits to it that it will be something that would be a very good investment over time. But I'm trying to put that together for you in a package that'll make that clear and easier to understand. But if you'd like to talk to Ms. Williams, she'll be available after the council meeting.
Mr. Penn, what is the status on the South Plant?
I believe we have one easement left. Is that right, Mr. Lilly? There's 1 or 2 easements left that Mr. Carpenter's looking at to gain for us so that we'll be able to move ahead with constructing the force main, which will allow us to take that treatment process offline. It won't get rid of the plant. It'll just take the treatment process and transfer that to the north plant, and it'll help us reduce our exposure to the treatment limits that ADEQ has. We'll be able to do everything in one spot. I understand that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. 1 or 2. I mean, I know we're getting almost where we have the easements needed, but I'm not really sure what exactly remains to be procured.
There was some property that was in probate, I believe, was the problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I've slept a time or two since our last meeting.
Is there any additional business? New business? Hearing none, in way of announcements, Animal Shelter Spring Forward Adoption Event, March 11 through 16. St. Patrick's Day Free Adoption Event, March 18th. National Puppy Day, March 23rd. Sherwood Annual Pet Fair and Fundraiser Event will be Saturday, April the 6th. They are also accepting and requesting donatable auctionable items. Also, the Senior Citizens Fish Fry will be April 27th. Are there any more announcements? Move we adjourn.
Second.